privileges. Okay, so privileges are applied for individual rules. So I can restrict each rule on the application using a privilege. Okay, so you can see privileges. I mean, privileges are not like any code. I mean, it doesn't have any logic inside it. It is just like a token. Okay? So this token has to be matched across two things. Right? One is on the rule level, one is on the role level. Right? So yeah, this is what I was mentioning. This privilege is a token. It doesn't have any code or logic or information. Right? So if a particular rule has to be accessed, the privilege on the role has to be matched. So when I say a token, the match has to occur in between the rule level and on the role level. Okay. So if you look at the roles, so there comes your privileges. Right. So you see, certain privileges are mentioned here on this particular role. Now, if the same privilege is available on a rule, only then this particular user who's part of this role can access that rule. Okay, so what is it? It has to occur in between the role and the rule. Okay, so the token has to be matched on the rule level and on the role level. Okay, on the rule, how can I do it? So for any rule, if you have a tab called security, you will see a privilege for it. Let me just open some process. Maybe a flow action. So yes, this is a flow action. On the security tab, I have a privilege, right? So privilege will let you restrict people on specific rules. Okay, and we can also see, yes. Yeah.
Like if I create one role, for example, if I create one role and now for a particular flow action, I want to give a privilege. So to have it accessed, I will have to mention it on the role also and on the on that rule also. That is flow action.
Correct, correct, exactly. Yes. Right. So now if I see, suppose I've created a privilege, right? I can create my own privilege also. Right. So let me just open some get documents. Now if you see, the privilege will host all the roles. Okay. Yeah. So you see this privilege called px get documents. It is a part of the Pega rules API role. And on the role, if you open again, it is associated on the privilege here. Right. So now if at all I would like to provide a particular user, okay, considering the role of the user is this. Now, if I want this user to access any particular rule, then I have to mention the privilege. Okay, so it has to be a match on the rule level and on the role level. Okay, so for whoever operator this role is assigned to, only then he can act, only that user can access this rule. Right, so roles are always applicable to people. I mean, for access groups, which means it is for operators. Yeah, so that match in between the rule level and the role level, the privilege will give that user the privilege of accessing that rule. Okay, so this is applied on individual rule level. So we started off with the application restriction, then depending on the job functionality, then on the classes, and then finally on the rules. Okay, so which is the most granular level of security that I can provide. Correct. So beyond rules, there is nothing else. So rules is a basic unit. So I am able to restrict users on the rule level. Okay. Right. Now, for your entire, probably let's take your enterprise application. You'll have thousands of rules. Correct. So now I cannot sit and look at each of the rule and can I know what kind of privilege it has, right? So can I add any privileges for it, or can, if I want to remove, is it easy? I'll have thousands of rules, correct? I cannot, sit and look at each one of it. Then what should I do? That's where we go for using a wizard for the security. Open it. Okay, so let me go to security and I have something called as access manager. Let me open this. Close all of it. Organization security, access manager, and process. So this is a wizard where you can see the overall security of your entire application. So right, this is like a one-stop for all the security aspects. So yes, here you can see, depending on the access group, HR administrators, and you can see the green tick mark means a complete access is given. This means conditional access, whereas red cars no access. Let's see. Let me this. Now, can a user with this particular access group, HR administrators, and with this role called HRS admin, can he create instances of recruitment? Yes. Can he run reports? Can he modify? Can he delete? Yes. So all this is allowed for this particular role. See, the other two roles of security admin and HRS API, they currently do not have any access related things, no AROs, nothing. So by default, they are restricted. Okay. But if at all I would like to provide access, or if at all I would like to change, I can change them. Okay. So this is with respect to the HRS administrators. Okay. What if users, suppose. Okay. For users, HRS user is the role. Okay. So what all he can do is a user can open, he can create instances. He can modify. He cannot delete. Okay. He cannot perform. Says he can run reports. Okay, but ideally we do not give him that option, right? So I think that reports option is disabled by default, but here it says it is available. Let us change this. I would like to change it. Okay, now once I click on it, I can decide. So HRS user is there. So is it currently it says full access? No, but I don't want the end user to run any reports. So I will give it no access. Right? So now the end user can no longer run reports for the recruitment transaction. Okay. So for each access group, for each role, you can know what kind of permissions are provided. Okay, so this is for the work related things, I mean for case creations and processes. Similarly, for tools like your clipboards, feedback, then other things like your live UI. So all those will be part of the tools here. Right. So can an end user, part of the HRS users access group, can he access clipboard? No. Can he deal with tracer? Can he deal with live UI? No. So all these are by default, they are restricted. Okay? So if maybe my project requirement needs that the live UI for end users have to be enabled. Okay, probably as an example. So maybe I can go and I can provide an access for it. Okay, so this gives us, this saves us a lot of time that I don't need to go back and I don't need to look after each one of the rules and all. Instead, I can directly check on the access manager. So this is
So
for
if
the
we do
tools.
here, it will get reflected
Yes,
in
yes,
the
it will.
access
It
report.
throughout the application. Yes.
Okay.
Here for the manager, I see there is some restricted access. But if required, I can change. For manager, I can enable the live UI. I mean, it is already enabled. But if required, I can disable it. This is for the tools. Similarly, for the privileges. Okay, so I can have a lot of privileges on the application. So let's see. You get to see all the roles. So these are the roles created. And if at all there are any privileges currently, no, there are no privileges on this because we did not make any changes. Okay, but for example, let's look at the case type. So no privileges on this. Okay. So are there any privileges on the data? No, I don't think so. Okay, but if you have, yes, you would be able to see them directly here. Okay? So it's more like a quick way of you can see what all privileges are available and what changes you can bring in. So it's more like a quick no privileges. Okay, no, currently no privileges on this. But if once we start using the privileges specific to your case types and data types, yes, I would be able to see them here and I can quickly manipulate them if required. So instead of going through all the rules and looking at each of their privileges, instead I can use this wizard to make changes quickly to look after the entire application's security profile. Okay, so are we clear with this so far? Any questions?
No questions for now.
Yeah, okay. So one thing here is that I mean once we make any changes on the access manager, yes, that reflects to the entire application. Along with this, one moment. Along with this, there are also some authentication policies. So far it was just about authorizations, right? I mean, internally, what all they can do, what they can access, what has to be restricted. It's all about authorization. Likewise, there is an authentication profile also. Once you go into configure, yes, here is your authentication and security policies. So this is more likely that how do you set your password? what kind of password policies you have. Then are there any whenever you enter some incorrect password, is there a captcha, right? Then lockout, after how many incorrect passwords you have to lock out the account. So all that is part of the authentication policies here. So these are, I mean, quite simple, nothing much complicated in here, right? So if at all you would like to disable some operators, you can add in, or uh, if there is mm, probably the operator is inactive for about 25 days or 30 days, maybe you can disable him, or you can disable the operator ID. So all those external authentication is part of this authentication security policies here, right? So this is also something that we look at, but most of the times we tend to use the default options only, like things like your minimum password lengths. Then you need to have one uppercase character or one numeric character, one special character. I think most of the applications would just go with the default ones, but if at all there's any special uh, password requirements or not, so we can address them here. So comparatively, your authentication is a lot more easier and simple, isn't it? Because it just deals with the login and the password. The authorization is more like you're already inside the application and what kind of restrictions you're going to impose. Okay, I mean, so both together put, they define the entire security profile of your application. Okay, so I think, yeah, that's all about the security related aspects. Okay, maybe you can just try around with these things with the AROs. And yeah, I forgot about the access when conditions. I thought I'd show you that.
The access when condition I saw in attribute-based access control also.
Those are access control policy conditions. I mean, there's a separate rule type you can consider. So this is your access when rule, which is similar to your when rule only. The logic seems very similar, but this is specific to providing access. So on the attribute based access control, we call them policy conditions. But here they are called systems.
No, inside policy condition, I think there was access when.
Oh, inside
Can
this
you open
also.
this one?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Got it. Yes, got it. Yeah.
So we can have access when for both attribute based and role based.
Correct, correct. So any security based ones can be handled using the access when.
Okay.
For business
And the
logic, regular ones.
Okay. So when it comes to access, we have access when, and when
correct,
we want to have for a business transaction, it will be normal when.
Normal, regular when conditions.
Regular
yes.
when, okay.
The functionality would be the same. You see both the conditions tab and advanced tab here also. Just that the utilization is, it is kept separate.
Okay.
Yeah. So these are your access whens. So you can have your logical strings and okay. This also has just one only. Complex logic strings can be, you can define your logical string with all your and or operators, just like your regular when regarding the functionality, but these are specific to access or providing access. And that's the only difference. Okay, I think that's because access whens are also important. So most of the times we see that the access is a condition based. So even in your privileges or even in your AROs also, sometimes we tend to go for conditional based access. Okay. So I think that sums up all the security related aspects of the application at all different levels, starting with the application level, then on the job functionality, then on the class level, and then finally on the rule level. Okay. Right. So just try giving it a look once again, and if in case there are any questions, we can discuss. Okay. All right. So you are able to see this, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So we are yet to look at the application version. This is all done. Then yes, parallel development we have to look at. Okay. The application development, then localization of the application. We are to look at parallel processing, circumstancing. We look at data pages. Field values is completed. Application debugging is completed. Security is completed. Rule resolution is completed. So then we have migration, deployments, right? The import export stuff, then the web services, connectors, simulation of data. Then we'll talk about background processing, activities, database updates, key data pages, reports. And we'll talk about sub reports, then joins. Then we have mashup, then accessibility features, mobile applications. So all these things are left.
Because activities come under background processing.
Yes, we will be discussing activities during the background processing.